Very interesting conversations that have been going on so far.
Yes.
When you look at what's been going on and the drive by the African Development Bank, what's your perception on the impact you think this is going to have?
Let me give some context and background. January 2017 in Davos, I had breakfast with Dr. Adeshina, and the concept of this forum was just being discussed. And we had a small brainstorming session around, would it make sense? How would it fit? What would make it relevant? And how would it be able to make game changer? Fast forward 1 year later, January 2018, again in Davos, having breakfast with Adeshina, he gave me the brochure. Reality.
Sure.
He had a team, and we worked behind the scenes because we're a knowledge partner for this conference, behind the scenes, bringing in investors and projects, and also helping to shape the discussion around, impact investing, blended finance. So I have one of my partners from Washington, D.C., who was here on Tuesday, and he ran that session on blended finance because many business models in Africa, for example, cannot take pure commercial banking funding. And multilateral funding is not, in excess supply. So if you blend the two together, you can get a better rate and hopefully longer tenor. So I think it's a reality, and I think it's an excellent platform. It's a game changer because many African businesses are challenged to raise capital. The bigger the projects, the more challenging capital is to raise. Now, the lenders or the investors who are looking into Africa have a different perception of risk vis-a-vis we on the ground. Okay? So in effect, by bringing multilaterals on the continent and those who are active on the continent who understand Africa risk and looking at Africa projects, we can definitely make a dent in the investment landscape. The other missing pillar is pension funds. Many countries have pension funds and plenty of cash because of reforms. In Nigeria, in South Africa, they're looking for outlets. They're giving their money to government bonds. We should take that money and deploy it into long-term investments, the right management teams, corporate governance, the right structures, and hopefully there'll be good cash flows with better returns than just government bonds. Because government bond returns go up and down depending on the cycle of the economy, or of the country's economy.
Sure. I like the point you raised regarding the importance of impact investing in this conversation, and I'm actually interested in finding out how important it is to some of the investors and some of the projects that we are hearing about here right now, because ultimately it's not just about return to shareholders, it is also about return to communities and inclusion in many excluded communities into the economy. Impact investing, I mean, how high up on the agenda is it for investments here?
It is high on the agenda for especially the donor community, because if you heard the President of Ghana speaking at several fora, that we need to change the narrative into Africa from being an aid-driven economy in Africa into an investment-driven economy in Africa. So the aid guys want to play in that space as well. So they're also looking at how to get the grants into impact investment in a way that the return is not just giving government grants or grants to government or aid for projects like water or healthcare, but also seeing if I give you water project, money for water, what's the impact on that hydro plant, small hydro plant, on the farming community? Can you also use it for electricity as well, for the farming, for that community as well, beyond just providing water? So you can do water, you can do farming, you can do electricity. 2 megawatt hydro plant, small hydro plant, but has many sources of outputs to the community. Because in the old days, it was a hydro plant purely just for maybe irrigation. But now we say, look, we can do power. Now we say, no, we can do water. We can do, so that's the impact. So using the same investment for the same project, but have multiple outputs for that same investment, much more powerful.
Right. All right, but as a knowledge partner, in looking at investors, basically, what do you see as some of the red flags that they'll point out to, especially with regarding the model of this forum?
I think the red flags is that investors don't spend a good enough time to prepare projects properly. Now, there's a number of issues. One, they have capacity to prepare, funding to prepare, because somebody has a project, you need to spend money to make money. And many times they think that they've just done enough. They go to a lender, and then they say, sorry guys, have you thought of this, that, and this, and this? You get my point. So I think hopefully they will come to this forum and learn better how to prepare projects better. And if anyone then can't close any deal here, they go back, they're better informed as to what the gaps are that the investors saw, which they need to go fix, and hopefully come back next time, or go back to the same spot, to some financiers, say, look, those gaps you talked about, I fixed them. I've used KPMG to help me fix them, for example, and hopefully then the investors can say, look, we're ready to put money into the project. Yeah. The project is not just about cash flows or the market or the environment, also about capacity, management depth and capacity, track record, corporate governance, financial reporting. And these are also things that people are looking at a lot more closely than just, oh, it's a market for selling computers. Okay, fine. Well, not every single computer company makes money.
Yeah, let's talk about financial reporting and corporate governance. These big projects that are expected to come online, these track records that we're talking about, they're going to need a very strong auditing fraternity. And in South Africa, we've had our own challenges with KPMG, as you might have heard, regarding the broader narrative of state capture, corruption, and the like.
Sure.
But how important or how ready is the continent's auditing fraternity to embrace all these big deals that are expected to come through?
We are ready, but the big challenge is not just us, because we don't audit in a vacuum. We audit companies that exist. Those companies must have corporate governance. Those companies must have shareholders who really want to be transparent. Those companies must have systems and controls. If they don't have all those things, the narrative about, when you have two or more colluding to do fraud, there's no auditor on the planet who can actually find the fraud. Okay, so generally, the key question for us in the way we look at business is say, can the board fire the CEO? If the answer is yes, then I know the corporate governance is stronger. But in many African companies, which are still evolving because they have dominant owners, they still want to run businesses, a one-man business, for example. So I need to take the money out of the kitty, for example. I want to account for the money. I did a deal with somebody. The money just goes into the bank account. It doesn't go into the books of the company. That's the issue. It's not just an African thing. It's global. Because you can see there have been big bus stops, for example, in the US, in Western Europe. Steinhoff, for example.
For sure.
South Africa was based in Frankfurt, in Europe, for example. And so we only audit the numbers that we see, right? So the key thing is, how do you differentiate those guys who are investing very heavily in systems? So take, for example, Dangote. Dangote is the largest SAP rollout across Africa for his cement business. He did that so that he sits in Lagos and he can see what's happening in Zambia or Ethiopia or South Africa, which means it makes it easier for the auditor to audit because there's a trail of transactions across the business. So if he wants to go list now in London, for example, he has a track record of financial information and annual reports that have been audited by top four firm. He has a strong finance function. He has a very experienced CFO. He has a board audit committee, a board risk committee. He has corporate governance in place. He has more independent directors than he has, not who are those who are not independent.
But the role of the auditors as well, respectfully so, because you've spoken to the board who may at times not be transparent as directors, but then we do also have auditors that may at times look the other way or accept payment to approve certain financial statements. We are no doubt going to need more rigorous measures, accountability measures, especially as we've got all of these companies that will small companies, big companies that will grow as Africa reaches its economic potential.
Yeah, I mean, it's any profession, lawyers, accountants, architects, engineers, there's always pressure to make money. There's pressure to make fees, to pay salaries, meet overheads, and share profits, okay? But you have to look the client in the eye. If you don't believe what the client's telling you, I'm off. I'll walk away.
All right.
And that's something that we are beginning to do. I've done that many years. And sometimes also you can also report companies to regulators. So you work for a bank. You got a license from a central bank. You go tell the central bank that these guys are not behaving. And that's what we should do. We should be bold enough to be able to stand up and say to ourselves, this is not right. Because at the end of the day, the capital markets, the investment community, shareholders, staff, management are looking to us to say that these numbers are accurate.
All right, then. So thank you so much for your time. So we'll keep our eyes and see how things unfold. I'll be speaking to Kunle Elebute, he's the chairman of KPMG Africa.